to be doing a bit more educational, less gameplay focused video about how to build guardians in Joust. Very interesting one. I've had quite a few people come through the stream and ask me how to build gods, like what items I think are good, that kind of thing. And so I thought for this video, this is on Season 8, Patch 4 of Smite game. We'll be talking about how exactly I like to build guardians, all the items I want to consider, relics, consumables, and the like. So let's get right into it. I guess we should start at the baseline where, first thing you're going to build, coming out of base, 1500 gold in Joust. Got to figure out what starter item you want. Probably you want either this one, this one, this one, or where's the other one? This one, this very interesting one. But the difference between these, you're going to get a lot of gold from if you go this or if you go this. Benevolence, a lot of money in those ones. If you go war flag, you're going to be going very aggressive. Usually you want to have 2 war flags if you're going the war flag. And then tainted steel is a bit of an odd one, you might think. This is more for pretty much exclusively Cerberus. When you're against a heavy healing comp and you pick Cerberus into it, tainted steel can be very strong for him. But yeah, this one's kind of the oddball out. Usually you want to choose between the 3 of these. Sentinels and Benevolence are the gold ones if you want to get a lot of money. The biggest difference there is Sentinels is a bit of a flat line. If you think about if it improves over the game, Sentinels is basically the same the entire game. It's giving you static gold and XP when things die. Benevolence, however, if you read this sucker, it actually trends upward as you level up. Where the heck is it? Can't even click it. It's so troll. But yeah, this thing will give you more gold and XP spooling depending on your player level. So it's kind of like Sentinels is just going to be the same throughout the game versus Benevolence, which is going to trend upward and be better throughout the game. But Sentinels is going to give you better sustain. So if you really want sustain and you just want some really solid gold throughout the game, good sustain, and then you want to get Sentinel's Boon or Embrace, you go for that. Benevolence if you want to get the upgraded form of that. I don't know why it's not highlighting. Sentinels like comes up when I do that, but this isn't coming up. Compassion or Animosity, you go Benevolence, and then of course, as we touched on the War Flag, you can go double War Flags if you want to do some really aggressive stuff. You have gods that really benefit from the movement speed and the attack speed. Like say you picked Ymir and you have a Guan Yu on your team, make him attack really fast for whatever reason, or an assassin like Fenrir or Naja, you just want him to be chopping away. You can go the War Flags. And then along with your starter item, you probably have enough to start a tier 2 boots. Usually go either a tier 2 boots at the very beginning, or you can go tier 1 boots, and then you can load out with health chalice and maybe a couple multi-pots. Maybe 1 or 2, your choice. Depends how much you think you need. Usually I go just my starter and then tier 2 boots. But you can go a starter, tier 1 boots, chalice with some pots if you're really worried about your sustain. Then after that, items you're going to want to consider, pretty much items you're building every single game, are going to be Shoes of Focus or Tank Boots. You're going to want to make a judgment call here. If you think you're going to get focused a lot, you're probably going to want to go the Reinforced Shoes. You're taking a lot of punishment. Say you picked Ymir, or you picked a Guardian with no CC immunity, like Yamoja, let's say, and they have Ares and Poseidon on their team. They're going to want to combo you out with their ults, so you probably want to get the Reinforced Shoes to get that extra tankiness. But if you think you're going to be able to be a bit safer, say you're playing this Sobek, for example, very safe Guardian, you could slap on a Shoes of Focus instead. And then, other than that, core items that you probably want to get every game are Gauntlet of Thebes and Pridwin. You could rush them right after your starter item, Boots, and then just go like that. Or, as we'll get into, you can actually buy these later if you want to go a different build path. So let's go straight into the defensive items. We're going to gloss over damage for a second. And we'll look at some good defense options that you can buy. Here's one. I like Saw. Put this one in here. Let me just load them up real quick. If you need like really effective tankiness as soon as possible, let's say that you just think you just want to be there for a complete CC. You're playing like, I don't know, Kumba or something. And you just think their comp is super aggressive. They're just going to be beating on you the whole time. you can go something super defensive like this build. And the difference between this build with the Sov Talisman and say if you go Tank Boots, Thieves, Pridwin is the Thieves build is going to take quite a bit longer to ramp up because you have to get the stacks on the Thieves to really make it effective. Whereas if you go Sovereignty right off the bat, you just have initial tankiness like right off the bat, right? Even if they're like, let's say, Achilles, a Mage, and a Guardian, this is going to be super effective because it's just effective health and regen that you're getting from this that makes it so impactful. It gives you so much physical protection, you're going to be able to tank up towers pretty much infinitely. Not infinitely, of course, but you'll be able to dive under there. This is the best item to get if you think you're going to be under towers early, or if you're going to be able to sustain a lot of damage. This is one of the best items to get. And then, even though they have 2 magicals, let's say, this item will help you survive quite a bit with that HP 5. But if you are worried about, let's say, a lot of magical damage like that Ares and Poseidon we were just talking about, you could go the Tank Boots here, and then you could go into Onis, which is a very interesting item. Gives you a lot of mitigation, and it only costs 2,100 gold, just like the Sov, but it will give you that magic prot. So if you are worried about getting bursted by a lot of magical damage, this is a very, very effective build to go, to be tanky straight off the bat, just right there. Are there any Guardians or comp you totally wouldn't want to pick into with Sobek? No, probably not. Sobek is a very effective, most consistent Guardian, probably, in my opinion. But yeah. So anyway, moving on. Some more defensive options here. Got another one in the old notes. Witchblade is pretty solid. But yeah, so Guardian builds just right off the start. Once again, you get one of these starters. Just pick one of these randomly. Then you get the boots. You probably have a chalice by this point. So let's throw that in there. You want to get this chalice as soon as possible, but you don't have to get it right away. You can save until like you get your boots first, like get some baseline tankiness online. But of course, if you did go the start where you have a starter, tier 1 boots, and a chalice, like that's fine. You just want to get this thing as soon as possible because this is 750 health over a course of one back, or one time you're out there in the fray fighting the enemies. But yeah, there are a myriad of starts you can go, but usually it's going to be starter item boots, and then you go Thieves Pridwin, or it's starter item boots, then you go Sov Talisman, or it's starter item boots, and then Onis. And then you can kind of, with the Onis one, you can kind of go whatever. But those are like the 3 super core builds you're going to go. There's only one super niche one that you could dabble with if you're really feeling it. And that's the Blade build, which is one that I personally like on specific Guardians that you feel like you don't really need to build much damage, or you don't need that heavy tankiness. You'd rather have some mobility on your side. Let's say you're playing Ymir is a perfect example for that. Ymir flourishes when he has a lot of movement speed. So you could go something like this. And just be super fast. You're going to deal like no damage. You're not going to be excessively tanky, but you're going to be able to get in, do your stuff, and then hopefully be able to run away with this stuff. Because you have so much movement speed, so much mobility. You just get in and out. And that's something like a god like Ymir really flourishes with. But you're not going to do this on, say, Cerberus. You're not going to do this on, say, Sobek. You're not going to do this on Jormungandr, where your character does a lot of damage on their own. You're not going to do this on Kuzenbo, because you're really focused on trying to kill their backliners with those gods. But if you're on a really defensive god like Ymir, let's say, this is the perfect example once again. You can go this Blade build. But now, we get into the more interesting part of the build, where you have your base items online. Let's just say you want this, right? These 4 items. That's a very classic, very standard Guardian build right there. What do you do next? You have your core items. Now what? Well, for those, we're going to have to look at these damage items here. And here's an interesting one I'm going to put on there. Here's another one. Here's one more. And here's oh, don't mind the sounds in the background. This is professional. Obsidian Shard? I wouldn't put Obsidian Shard in here, actually. I don't think I would. These are the damage items I like to look at specifically as a Guardian. looking to do a bit more damage. The Void Stone is a very popular pickup for right here in this slot. And then E-Staff is also a popular pickup if you want that. Mirrodin's another popular pickup. You don't have to build all of these in order. Stone of Binding is more of a iffy one. Stone of Binding is more of a one that you would go in the start of a build. If you really think you're confident doing a lot of damage as a Guardian and you're not really worried about them being able to retaliate against you and punish you for building super offensive, you could actually go a build like this, and you do a lot of damage and maintain some tankiness. And then after that, you could go like this and this. Or you could just choose from any of these items, really. But this is another Korra build that I forgot to mention that you're not going to go that often, but if you really think you're going to be able to get away with doing a lot of damage, but you still want to be a little bit tanky, you can do this. But yeah, these are normally items that you would build later on in the build if you're playing like just standard gameplay. You can get any combination in any order of any of these. Usually these three. The Stone of Binding is more for a early on spike. You could get a Stone of Binding early and then go Thebes if you want to get like a little bit of extra damage and then just get the tankiness back online and then continue on like this. Pretty nice. The Mirrodin is especially impactful on gods like Jing Chen, gods like Ganesh, where those double abilities will really help your team out. Gods like Geb get double shields, double knockups. It's pretty situational. You just have to be like, would this item be really impactful for me here? E-Staff to steal health is always good. It's kind of like invisible damage. It's not going to show up on your stat sheet at the end of the game, but you are going to notice you're getting a lot tankier, and you're taking those health from those Guardians maybe. Like stealing like 200, 300 health later on. Can be really, really nice. Why not Tank Boots Stone of Binding? You could go that. This will work great on like a Yamoja or something. But usually if you think you're going to be able to get away with Stone of Binding, you're probably thinking you're going to be able to get away with Shoes of Focus into Stone of Binding. But it's all your call. Whatever you feel is working, you should go. Like if you see these items that I'm building, you're like, that's garbage. Every time I build Ratatouille, it works out great. Keep doing that. If it works in your games, keep doing it. If you're finding success on it. This is just from my point of view, the items that I see working the best. But yeah, and then next thing we got to talk about is, and maybe I should have touched on this a little earlier, is the relic choices you want to have. Because you do want to start the game off with a relic, probably. Usually the options you're looking at are this guy is a really good starting relic. Where's the one I want next? It's this one. This one's a really good relic. This one's a really good relic. This one's a really, really good relic. So usually you're coming out of the base. You want to build one of these. Blink if you think you're going to be super aggressive. Beads, let's say you're against something that's going to heavily CC you. They have Ares Fenrir. I'm just going to keep going back to this Ares. But if you're a Guardian, it is not the worst thing ever to buy a Beads early against something that will basically always kill you if they are able to get it off on you. Shell is extremely useful, especially in early skirmishes. It gives you, like, everybody just gets a Geb shield suddenly. It can make a fight turn on its head real fast. And then Sunder is a very interesting one that usually you don't want to pick up first, but it can be very effective. Let's say you have the Fenrir on your team. The Fenrir, it's kind of awkward to use a Sunder while they're in his mouth, or like jump on them, then use the Sunder, then ult and pick them up. So you could actually, if you have something that's setting you up, instead of you being the main setup, it could be really nice to get Sunder early. And let's say the Fenrir jumps in, he ults, and you Sunder them while they're in his mouth. So then the Fenrir doesn't have to worry about doing all that. It can be really nice to pick up a Sunder early. But these are the 4 relics that you're probably going to want to pick up. A combination of 2 of these every single game. They're always solid. However, there are, of course, going to be some situations where you're going to want to pick up a niche relic. For example, I've got Aegis. If I'm against, like, let's say I'm against Achilles. I don't want him to execute me, obviously, and I'm playing Yamoja. I could pick up an Aegis. I could pick up Beads Aegis if they have, like, Fenrir Achilles. I'm really worried about how they're just going to combo me out and then execute me. Because it's better to be alive and not have, like, let's say, team relics like Shell and Sunder than be dead and have those relics up. Other relics of note are Phantom, really useful against, let's say you're playing against Ymir, you're playing against Odin, you're playing against Yemoja. Phantom can be an interesting niche pickup when your team doesn't have ways to get out of their player-made obstacles. Like you say, you've got a Thoth on your team. You probably want to save him. He does a lot of damage. Another interesting one is Frenzy. It's kind of like a varied form of Sunder. It doesn't do the damage burst from the Sunder, which can be super impactful, but it will be very consistent. Applies to your whole team instantly. You can use it on anything. You can use it on fire. You can use it on the tower, the Phoenix, the Titan. It will work on all 3 of the enemies instead of just this one that gets sundered. So it can be nice to use on, let's say, like Fafnir. You pick up a Frenzy and a Sunder, and then you're really hitting people hard. Another one to look at is Thorns. You could build that on Kuzenbo. It's a bit less worth to pick up Thorns these days just because it's gotten nerfed so much. So usually you don't want to go Thorns, but it can be good. And then other notable mentions are Sprint. They just got a lot of slows, let's say, or you got a lot of backliners that really benefit from attacking without movement speed penalties. Like, let's say you got Soul, you got Kronos, you got Soul and an ADC, an AMC or something, that Sprint can really help. And then the only other one I'm thinking is Ankh, Cursed Ankh. Really effective. If they have healing that they literally cannot stop from happening, Cursed Ankh is a very good pickup. It'll work really well into, say, something like a Hell they pick up. It'll work really well into a Raw. It'll work really well into, what's another one that can't help themselves but heal? Baron, it'd be very good into. But you do have to be kind of careful with this. You can kind of bait yourself by building this into, say, their only healing is Guan Yu. He can choose not to heal, right? Like, he doesn't need to be healing for those 10 seconds. And he can just be beating your team in the head. So you don't want to get baited by that. Yeah, very good against Vamana. Yes, of course. How could I forget? And then that does it for the relics, I think. Next thing to move on to the consumables. We already covered you pretty much want to build Chalice as soon as it's convenient to. Like, if you keep backing and then you have like the perfect gold for shoes, you got the perfect gold for thieves, you got the perfect gold for Pridman, you could get this far into the build and still not have the Chalice. And it's not the worst thing ever. But like, I've got 1,200 gold and I've got no boots. I'm going to buy tier 2 boots and a Chalice because that costs 1,200 gold. I can't buy full boots, so, I've got 300 gold, chuck it into the Chalice. Or if you feel like you're getting pressured a lot, you probably want to pick this up early so that you can have that extra sustain potential. And then other consumables, of course, you want to pick up these. There is a time and a place to buy wards. You got to be pretty picky when you buy them. It can be pretty worthless to buy them sometimes because a lot of the time you know exactly where everyone is. But specifically, you want to pick up wards when you're trying to pressure out Bull Demon King. You want to set up wards. There are 3 entry points. The quickest way from their base to fire, the one from the side mid camp to Bull Demon, and the one from the quickest way from your base to fire. You really want to get those 3 entry points warded, and then if you've got extra gold, you can put a sentry on Bull Demon as well to deter the enemy team from having any information on how low the objective is without actually having to go to it. And then, of course, there are always potions of power, elixir of defense, and elixir of power. There's elixir of speed. You kind of have to make a judgment call when you pick up these. If you have max CDR in your build, without this, because this gives 10% CDR, that's the big thing, don't pick it up. But if you have like 30% power, you can buy this sucker after you finish your build. You could even buy it at like a point of really high resistance where they're pressuring your Titan and you have 500 gold and you can't buy any items. And you're like, oh god, I need something. Or I'm about to end the game with this next push. I can buy a potion of power. It's kind of, these are all judgment call items. Like sometimes you won't even pick up elixir of speed because you're like, oh, I have 3k gold. I'd rather save up for a 3k pot. But it's all situational. You got to make the judgment call when you think it's going to be good. Like, do I really need to replace my boots? Yes, I do. I really need that winged blade. I really need that mantle of discord, etc., etc. So yeah, I think the only thing that I have left to talk about here are niche items. So these are also important. Like these ones that I've gone over are just really consistent items that are going to work in any build. You can build them pretty much at any point. But some niche items that could be really good depending on what god you're playing. One to consider, let's say, power boots. If you think you're going to be extremely aggressive on the Sobek, and you really don't care about having that extra cooldown, you just want to burst them, grab a power boots. It's not the worst thing ever. It is 20 more power than Choose a Focus. But yeah, if you really think that burst is going to come in clutch with that 20 extra power, go ahead and pick up a power boots. Another one is Pythags. This is one you usually want to get after you have your core online. Let's say you're at this point in the build. You just want to give your teammates a little extra boost. You can go this. But usually you don't want to go that. Normally Voidstone is just better. But on some characters, the Pythags could work out pretty heavily in your advantage. Say you have like a double carry comp and you're Fafnir or something, you just want to buff them with as many aura items as possible. Pythags can be a good one to look at. Another one is Spear of the Magus. Same kind of deal as the Pythags. If you just want to give your teammates that little extra oomph, Spear of the Magus can be really nice. And then one other offensive item you could do would be something like a Chronos Pendant. Let's say for whatever reason you didn't go Pridwin, right? You went like this, and then you went this, and then you went, I don't know, Relic Dagger. You just really wanted this. You want some kind of cooldown in your Guardian build, and for whatever reason your Guardian doesn't work very well with Pridwin. I can't think of off the top of my head a Guardian that would be really, really bad with Pridwin. Like maybe Fafnir, but he's even decent with Pridwin. But if you really wanted those extra cooldowns, you could slap a Chronos Pendant on your build and give you the most cooldown you can get from one item because of that passive. But a lot of the time, you're not going to be building that. And then some defensive options you could consider for some niche pickups. First one is Lotus Crown. Very effective on those guardians that give you like little heals. Like for the biggest example would be Terra. When she ults, you could just give Lotus Crown to your whole team. Or Yamoja, it's not that bad. You can't apply Lotus Crown with your basic attacks on her passive, but her 2, you might just save your teammate's life by having a Lotus Crown in your build with that extra protection. Another one is Spectral Armor. Say you're playing against Hunters. Crit is very popular stat for Hunters. Not as much in Joust, but, you know, maybe you're playing against a Hunter that's going crit. This could be very effective against critical strikes. Let's say they picked Oleron for whatever reason. They got Oleron and a Hunter with crit. You definitely want to go Spectral Armor. And these items that I'm mentioning now are usually items that you're going to be building on later in the build after you have those core builds that we talked about. Another interesting buy would be from this tree, Mantle or Spirit Robe. Let's say you're playing against an Achilles. Mantle could be very useful if you could just like scoot away from him. Let's say you're Sobek and they're just CCing the heck out of you. And you're just getting Achilles ulted every single time.
T.O.B.
Mal, thanks for the T1, dude. I don't know if I'll be able to grant that request. But yeah, let's say you're getting Achilles ulted off cooldown. They're CCing the poop out of you. You're getting sundered. It's just really, really awful. You want to get this online so that you can just... You get an execute range, you just get the heck out of there. Could be really nice. If you think that quick CC immunity when you start getting low, usually against executes is where that's really, really effective. Or a replacement for boots is another good one. And then the only other defensive option I have in my notes here would be Shogun's Kusari, which is a very interesting one. Usually you're not going to build Talisman of Energy when you're doing this, but if you're playing something like a Fafnir, who, as we went over, doesn't use Pridwin the most amazingly, you could go a build somewhat along the lines of this, and you'd be able to provide a lot of utility for your team. You'd have 30% CDR without a Pridwin. You give your teammates attack speed. You got some CCR on that as well. This has CCR on it as well. 30% CCR, bunch of HP, decent survivability, not a lot of physical defense, but a great amount from the thieves. Fafnir passive is going to help you as well. And then you're going to have your relics up all the time. Fafnir, I keep talking about Fafnir. I don't know. You guys might not know, but Fafnir is actually my most played character. so I'm a bit biased when it comes to the Fafnir. Fafnir is very good if you go the relic dagger, because you're usually buying like really high impact for your team relics. Like you're buying Sunder and you're buying Frenzy, or you're buying Sunder and you're buying Ankh, you're buying Frenzy and you're buying Ankh. Something like that. Something that just help your team just go that extra mile, because Fafnir is not going to be doing all the damage. You really want to be picking backline characters with Fafnir that are really, really going to shred them with these buffs. But yeah, other than that, I think that might just about do it for how to build Guardians in the Joust game mode. Put together a quick example build of, let's say, a stereotypical game. About how my thought process would go on a very offensive Guardian and then a very defensive Guardian. So we can kind of like mesh all these thoughts together into one. And then I think we're good to call this one. Yo, Mal, thanks for gifting the sub to Naus. Appreciate it. What would your ability order be on this? For Sobek? Or anti-heal? Oh! Yeah, Divine Ruin. You could pick up Divine Ruin if you want anti-heal, but usually your carries can pick up like a Brawlers and a Divine Ruin, and you don't really have to build any anti-heal yourself. And if you are really worried about their healing, you're probably going Curse Stonk upgrade, if the healing is that much of an issue. But yeah, for Sobek leveling, I would get 1, 2, 3 at level 3. Then I'd level as 3. Then I'd level as 2. If you think your ult is getting off decent impact, you could level your ult whenever it's available, but usually you just level the 3 and the 2 and then the ult. But yeah, if you are getting like fully charged ults out every single time on the enemy Thoth or something, let's say, then leveling the ult can be really good. But usually your ult doesn't have enough impact. You're not getting those big charge, big damage Sobek ults. So you usually just level the 2 after and then the ult. And then, of course, you max out the 1 after you're done with all that. VS heavy CC comps like Ares, what ability would you use to counter it? You could go Beads, depending on your Guardian. Let's say you're Yamoja, who has no natural CC immunity. That's usually when you want to go Beads, by the way. Your character has no natural CC immunity, so you're playing against really high CC, and you want those Beads. But like a god like Sobek should be able to survive Ares pretty easily. If you are against those high pressure comps that have a lot of damage that are able to CC the Guardians down really hard, you do want to go that defensive build I was talking about with the reinforced shoes like this. If they have like a big mage ultimate that they're dumping on you, that's when you're really good to rush like this. If they don't have that big mage ultimate, they just have a lot of little things hitting you all the time. The Sav build can be really nice. You could go like that, really good. And then you could getting a late Thebes isn't the worst thing ever, believe it or not. Stacks it up pretty quick. And if you're going to late Thebes, you probably have some good baseline tankiness to go off of. So you could go like this, or you could do it the other way around, like that. Anything's fine. But yeah, let's go through those example builds real fast. You guys keep firing questions at me. I'll be reading them out. It's a good session to do this. Examples in history could be good. Oh, that's a good example. That's a good idea, Povich. Let's see. Do I have any Guardian games? Oh, I don't have any games. This is a bad example. I don't want to click that. This is a 10-minute game. Do I have anything better? 16, 22. We got Thrash in this game. Oh, yeah, that was awful. This is a decent game. My history is literally Chronos Animosity every game. Am I doing other guides? Yeah, I probably will. See how this one does, see if people are interested. But yeah, let's take a look at this game real fast. My start this game, if I remember correctly, was Tier 2 Boots and Benevolence. And I went Benevolence because I actually wanted to go Animosity Emoji, but Compassion Emoji is pretty solid as well. Sentinels would be just as fine with Benevolence, but I'm preparing myself for Compassion meta, which is going to be patch 8.5. Little hint, I don't think in 8.5 there'll be any more Sentinels. I think it's always going to be Compassion. But, yeah, I went tier 2 boots with Benevolence. I started with Shell, I believe, because I wanted to give my team that extra oomph in the early. I was really worried about Cerberus Hercules, very strong early combination. So I wanted to get some survivability there. Then first back, I believe I bought Boots because once again, we're talking about how their early pressure is really crazy. These guys have a lot of CC on their team, a lot of little chunks from the Cerberus. I'm going to be able to stack up the Reinforced Shoes passive online real quick. That 20% CCR is going to be super impactful. So I just wanted to be as tanky as possible just right off the bat. So that's why I wanted like a super defensive Reinforced Shoes with my starter item and then the Shell. But then, as the game progressed, we started getting really far ahead and we started destroying them in fights. You'll see this game ended 15-3. So I want that super aggressive build I was talking about when we were talking about the building. I went Stone of Binding, which is a very good hybrid item, and it gives reduces their prots, so it's like all around team pen. And then we kept snowballing, so I went another super aggressive, yet still somewhat tanky, Voidstone this time. And that was one of the build paths I talked about where I thought you'd be really aggressive. So your build is going to change from like the moment you load into the game. You're like, oh, I want to go really defensive. Like this game, I wanted to go the Reinforced Shoes. I wanted to go the Shell. Then we started beating on them. I'm like, oh, I want Stone of Binding. We kept destroying them. Oh, I want Voidstone. And then after that, I really want to get that cooldown online. Most Guardians, you do want to get some heavy cooldown online. At least by this point is probably like the latest point where you really want to start getting that cooldown online. So I just slapped the Pridwin in there. Another option you could go on Yamoja specifically is Breastplate of Valor to cap out her passive. But I really like the Pridwin shield most cases. I'm not a big supporter of Breastplate. That's why I didn't talk about it at all in the building section. And then after that, I did want to get my passive online. It's not that important to get Yamoja's passive online, but, you know, might as well have it, right? So I started going Urchin because we were still snowballing. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to stack up this Urchin towards the end of the game if it goes to those stages. And I'll start getting my Yamoja passive online. I'll be able to cap out my Yamoja passive by buying this Compassion because of the H or the MP5 on that sucker. I think it would cap out. Might not. And then, of course, level 12, I picked up my second relic. I got Cursed Donk because these guys, they cannot stop themselves from healing. If Chang'e doesn't use her heal, trying to get away for that extra movement or for that heal, she'll probably die anyway. So it's good to Curse Donk her. Hercules, if he doesn't use his 3 to try and survive, he'll probably die. So it's good to get Curse Donk on him. Cerberus literally cannot stop himself from healing because he steals your healing. So if your teammates are healing or you have a health chalice sticking, he's going to steal that healing and be healing himself. So you hit him with a Curse Donk, he's sundered basically. So that's why I got the Curse Donk there. Then another example we could look at, maybe another emoji game. That's not the greatest one. Let me look. I played some games on the other accounts, maybe. Maybe like a game where I went more tanky, because that was a really aggressive game. Do I have like a game that was
coming for you, laddie.
Pretty close where I played a Guardian? Oh, here's the Ymir build. This went the distance. This game went the distance. Brad Pitt, thanks for the follow. This is a really good example, I think. We did lose this game. This is a casual joust, but I'm going to be building similar items, casual or ranked, believe it or not. This game, I started off with the Benevolence and tier 2 boots, the usual. And then I saw their comp has a lot of aggression. Kokolin can be very aggressive early, as well as the E-set can set up a lot of stuff for their team. Double Mage is, of course, going to be a lot of damage. So I grabbed a Shell first for the team, just to be like, that's the classic. If you need to be really defensive early, you grab tier 2 boots, you grab your starter, and you grab a Shell. Or you can grab tier 1 boots, you grab your starter, you grab a Shell, you grab a Chalice, if you're really worried about getting poked out. But a lot of the time, I think I'm able to play around that. So I usually don't go any potions at the start. And then this Wingblade was where my boots was, by the way. I went into tank boots this game, because once again, I was really worried about their damage. I'm a solo frontline Ymir, so there could be a lot of pressure on me. And you'll notice that it worked out. I had 0 deaths. And then immediately after, they have two magics, two mages, and they're gonna hurt me a lot because they have a lot of aggression on this comp. So I quickly, right after my tank boots, I slapped on the Oni Hunters. Then I did want some physical defense, so my choices were Sovereignty. I could have gone Thebes, but I chose the Witchblade this game to reduce that attack speed on the Kakol, and he actually does quite a bit of damage with those big chunky meaty autos. So I decided to slap a Witchblade on, not to mention the Witchblade also gives you 10% CDR, which is really nice, in addition to that 7% movement speed. And it's a lot better than Midgardian Mail that this guy built. Compare these items real fast. Witchblade, how much does that cost? 2150. Midgardian, how much does that cost? 2300. So that's already a 150 difference, right? And then this sucker gives 40 prot. This gives 30 prot. So this does actually give 10 more protection, but it also gives 50 more health as well. And then it gives that movement speed and attack speed slow. Up to, that's what, 24% attack speed, 24% slow if they hit you 3 times, versus Witchblade, which gives them a 25% attack speed slow, higher than Midgardian could ever get, but it doesn't give them the movement speed slow. But the Witchblade will apply to their entire team, no matter if they're hitting you or not. So I'll take the Witchblade every time. Thank you very much. And then after this, I want the late Thebes that I was talking about, because I did want some extra tankiness of both sides. Ideally, this Kakolin was going quite a bit of damage. And then, so I kind of like inverted the normal start that I would go, the Boots, Thebes, Prid. I went Boots, and then I went 2 items that would normally be just situational items, and I just went the Thebes and Pridwin later. So the Pridwin, of course, to get that extra cooldown. The Thebes, nice protections for both me and my team. And of course, it's the most cost-effective tank item that you can buy if you want just tankiness, straight up tankiness, health, and protections. Beautiful. And then at the end of the build, I ended up selling my boots for Wingblade. I didn't even buy Speed Pod, actually. I just wanted a little bit of extra speed to get that little bit of extra CCR. And as well, if Eset had 3'd me, I could just zoom at her real quick. Just run around her, juke her stuff, and just be really effective. And the Ymir build was pretty effective. I did turn this into an Animosity. I kind of wish I turned it into a Benevolence. Or a Compassion, my bad. But I was testing out the Animosity that game. Yeah, I think those are 2 pretty good examples. Maybe I have one more where it's a bit more hybrid-y. Might be able to find a Guardian game in here somewhere. No, I've been playing a lot of mages, huh? Maybe if I search my history. Give you an example of... No. Ymir? Ymir is usually tanky build. There's the Blade build. So it looks like. Pretty neato. Yeah, you can get pretty creative with how you build. Like in this build, we went double War Flag. Don't have a War Flag example yet. And then I went Tank Boots because they've got a lot of burst between these 3 gods. Then I went Wingblade because all of these guys have heavy slows. So I thought I'd just zoom away in addition to that magic prot. Really nice. And then I went the Thebes because you usually do want to get Thebes online if possible. Then I went the Thebes Pridwin. See, the Thebes Pridwin is pretty common in all of my builds. And then I was going that aggressive Voidstone. Pretty common. Then I went Emperor's Armor. Not looking at that one. Don't build that item. This item I went, or this game I went the Blade Rushes. Ymir is one of the few characters where you can be getting away with that Blade Rush, and it'll be really nice. But yeah, you can kind of mix and match these items pretty effectively. Real good. The Hipperski Trophy. Boon Squad. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything to say about the old Guardians, huh? I guess the only other thing we could discuss is like when you want to get which starter. What are the options here? Which starter to get? If you guys do have any questions, feel free to ask me right now. Answer them to the best of my ability. Yeah, these are probably the starters that you're going to be choosing from. Usually you're not building Animosity. Usually you want Compassion. Boon or Embrace? I'm a big Boon fan, but you know, Embrace might just be better. I'm not gonna lie. Ever since the Boon nerf, Sentinels Embrace is just too good, man. It's just too good if you're going the Sentinels. But in patch 8.5, I will be going Compassion every single game. You will not see me build Sentinels anymore. If you're going the War Flag build, usually you want Spartan Flag, though War Banner can be decent. And then, of course, if you are building Tainted Steel, as that's Cerberus, more often than not, it's only going to be on Cerberus. You want to build Tainted Breastplate. Because Tainted Amulet sucks. But yeah, other than that, I think that's going to do it for how to build Guardians. If you guys do have any last minute questions, once again, throw it out there. But I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. Could have been a little bit more concise, maybe more pristine. But I think we got over everything. Do you have any strong counter picks? How do you mean, Mr. Joe? Oh, you know an obvious one that we didn't talk about? Which Guardians are the best Guardians in the mode? Top Guardians? No particular order. Yamoja? Athena? Kuzenbo? Sobek? And oh, this one's a tough one. I don't know. It's a tough one, man. It's too hard. I can't decide on the fifth one. I'm gonna go with Cerberus. Yeah, that's a good one. Cerberus is really strong. Notable super strong mentions: Jing Chen, Kepri, and Ganesh. Ares as well. Kabrakan. I forgot Kabrakan. But yeah, my top four are definitely Kuzenbo, Sobek, Yamoja, and Athena. Yes, sir. No Ganesh or Kabrakan? Not in my top four. Ganesh and Kabrakan are super neat. Super neat. Super good. But I think, did I say Yamoja in my top four? Yeah, Yamoja, Sobek, Kuzenbo, Athena. Ymir might actually be my top five. Not gonna lie. We love Ymir. The Bach is disrespect. Oh no. How do I feel about the upcoming Fafnir buff? I think it's needed. Because he is weak. Terra's your bae. Yeah, Terra's good. She's just not, I don't know, she doesn't have something. She's missing something. She's missing the get sundered and live. That's what she's missing for me. The getting sunder onked and live part. If she could get past that, I would love Terra a lot more. Terra is also the guardian that you want to build animosity on. If you are building animosity on any of these gods, Terra is the most likely candidate, because you can get double animosity procs when you have her passive active. So you just throw your 3 down in the back, and then you just go boom, 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 boom. You just beat the heck out of him. Mystical Male. Why do you like Mystical so much? Best guardian out of everyone. Oh. The most consistent one is probably Sobek, I would say. Probably. But it's always comp dependent. Like, Sobek's not going to shine as strong in some comps as Ganesh is going to shine, you know? Like, depending on your comp, Ganesh could be the best guardian for you, you know? But just like, I need to pick a guardian right now. It's going to be my first pick. Sobek is probably the safest one you can go with. Do I have any combos I like to do in game, like how to set up for a kill? Well, classic combo, Athena Medusa. Athena Medusa Scylla. Kumba Medusa Scylla. Kumba Scylla. Kepri Set. Yamoja Hou-Yi. Yamoja with anything to drop in that ult. Yamoja Guan Yu. They can't run away from the horse, they can't get away from the horse. Ares, insert burst guard or insert burst mage here. Athena, insert burst mage here. Ganesh Set. Ganesh Scylla. Ganesh Scylla Fenrir. Lots of really good combos you can set up. Kuzenbo, doesn't matter who else you have. He's a good combo. If you want to like solo carry games, if you're solo queuing Joust, pick Kuzenbo if you're a Guardian. Because you don't have to care about your team if you're Kuzenbo. You can solo their backline. Just CC Chain and they die. Tanky Warrior Guide one might be the next video, I'm not gonna lie. That one's gonna be a bit more interesting. A lot more items to that one. But this one was fairly simple and it was really long. But yeah, I am gonna have to wrap up the video there. Sorry for all the tangents, but hopefully you guys got something out of all those. I tried to stay on topic for at least the beginning portions of the video. But I think I covered as much as I could. If you guys have any questions about any of these things that I was talking about, be sure to leave a comment and let me know what your question is, and I'll do my best to answer them all. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, learned a few things about how to build Guardians, my thought process when it comes to building Guardians. I'm a bit confused as to when I'm going to make these the timestamps for when to click into different parts of the video, but it's gonna be fine. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and slam that notification button. If you're wondering who this random second person I keep talking to is, it is my Twitch chat. You can find a link to my Twitch chat, which is where I live stream this kind of stuff and all my other content, actually. There's a link in the description, check that out. But as always, thanks for watching, and later.